Impending wet doom. It looked like it, though, this afternoon, didn't it? Dark and rumbling in Denver, a few funnel clouds in Arapahoe County. Kathy Saban's watching an eventful but not unusual stormy late spring day around here.
Not unusual at all, Kyle. A typical day in June. Morning sun, temperatures near 80, and afternoon thunderstorms, although occasionally those storms will be mean, producing funnel clouds, large hail, and heavy rain like we saw today and yesterday. Oh, and the day before that. We have sunshine, of course, in Denver. That's how quickly the storms are in and they're out. But many of you sending in pictures of not one but two funnel clouds. Funnels different than tornadoes. They do not touch down and typically are very weak in nature. And we haven't had any reports of damage or injuries, thankfully. Storms are racing off the foothills from the southwest toward the north-northeast. That blue box is a severe thunderstorm watch out until 9 o'clock tonight. Denver not included. Our high today above average, right back into this territory again tomorrow. As a matter of fact, we're going to be tracking moisture feeding in from the southwest, but that low is on the move. And as it moves in and the frontal boundary shifts off to the east, so will the threat for severe weather now in play over eastern Colorado. It's headed into the Midwest by tomorrow afternoon. So still the chance of a shower, rumble of thunder in Denver, and then skies clear tonight. Temperatures will be very mild. We've got temps back close to 80 again tomorrow. Tomorrow should be a little calmer. Only isolated storms in the forecast. Wednesday will just be plain weird. Chance for rain and cooler weather. And then I've got sunshine, Kyle, in for Thursday and Friday with mid-80s to end the week and kick off the weekend. How far away is the weekend again?
It'll be here soon, I promise. All right, thank you, Kathy. Hail tattooed cars and plants and people again today. You know, Colorado's seen $3 billion in hail damage claims over the last decade. Drivers trying to avoid that risk are risking even more trouble. CSP told our Steve Steger these drivers refuse to get the message.
Overpasses are not parking lots.
You would think people would not need that warning, but in Colorado, weather can make people do just about anything.
As soon as you park, you're now putting yourself and other people at risk.
Just this weekend, I spotted people parking up an overpass to wait out a hailstorm on I-25, and I didn't have to look too hard to find video of people doing it all over the place. Trooper Josh Lewis with the Colorado State Patrol says he sees it whenever hail falls, no matter the size.
When I have encountered people from underneath overpasses, I then get out, get pelted by hail, and tell them to keep moving along because it's going to be safer for everybody.
Lewis says drivers who park under this kind of cover are creating a potential pileup.
We're talking about inclement weather, which usually means reduced visibility. It means people who may not be paying attention to everything going on around them because they are so concerned with their own vehicles.
And whatever those drivers think they might be saving by preventing a hail damage claim could become a much bigger claim if their terrible parking job creates an accident.
And it may be just as much your fault as anybody else because you're in an area where you weren't supposed to be parking on the roadway.
So, what do you do if you're driving in hail and you're scared and you don't want to drive anymore? First things first, slow down. Lewis says if you want to try to seek shelter, seek it in a designated parking spot, like maybe the overhang of a gas station. If you need to stop on the highway, he says you want to make sure you pull all the way off the road, so not under the overpass because there's really no room off the road there, and use your flashers so drivers who may have lost visibility can actually see you as they're approaching. You got to hope that everyone else slows down and sees those lights, but get as far away from them as you can.
Hail is scary. Seeing a stopped car ahead of you is terrifying.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. 24 hours left in a Denver mayor's race like we have not seen in decades. Mayor Michael Hancock and his challenger Jamie Giellis both sat down with me today for one final conversation before the votes are counted tomorrow night. We're actually going to flip a coin here to determine who you will hear from first on Next. Hancock is going to be the green side. Giellis is going to be the blue side. That's how we're going to do this, okay? Boom. There we go. It is blue. That is Jamie Giellis. So she describes this as Denver's rare chance at new leadership in the city, rather than just the latest nominee of the traditional political machine.
This is an opportunity. If we wait another 4 years to bring another leader in, you can expect that the same systems that are trying to pull Michael Hancock through this election with 4 times the amount of funds that I have are going to continue with a similar candidate with a similar mindset. It's time to disrupt the system. And we can do that together, and we can see what happens over the next 4 years, and then it's up to the voters to decide whether I'm worthy of more time.
One question that I've heard from a number of voters, so I want to put it right to you straight off the top. Are you ready to be mayor?
I'm ready. I've been doing this work in some capacity for the last 17 years. I've worked alongside this administration. Michael Hancock knows what I'm capable of. I know what I'm capable of. And it's really about being a strong leader who will go in there and surround themselves with people of diverse and talented backgrounds who can help address the multitude of issues that the city's facing.
You being new to politics and campaigns, you've acknowledged that you've made some mistakes and some missteps in this campaign. How do you convince voters that that's not going to translate to City Hall, where there will be rookie mistakes and missteps and so forth?
Yeah. Well, I've said from the beginning, one of the things you're getting with me is that I'm not a politician. I don't come from any political background. I'm not part of any inner circles or entrenched politics in Denver. And that is something that's very refreshing to a lot of people. That also comes with the reality that as you learn to be a public figure, there are going to be things you have to learn along the way.
All right, now let's hear from Mayor Hancock. He's in a rare runoff for a sitting mayor, but he is not regretful. Today was the first time, though, that I think I have ever heard Hancock talk about the possibility he won't win.
If it is that I don't win, I will not look back on this and say, you know, I feel really bad about this. I'll feel bad because I'm looking forward and I have great passion to continue to serve. But it won't shake me as a person because I've been enormously blessed. I have nothing to regret and nothing really to complain about in terms of the blessing that I've been given.
Your campaign has an ad out that's attacking Jamie Giellis for saying that she comes from a position of white privilege. Why shouldn't she be applauded for acknowledging that?
You know what? Here's the challenge, and I said this on the night of the Denver Post debate. It has been the pattern and the cadence of these types of cultural insensitivities that Jamie continues to make throughout the campaign. You know, acknowledging white privilege. I think that for some of us, quite frankly, that immediately says you walk in a room believing you have a privilege or a leverage that no one else in the room has.
You have questioned whether your opponent, Jamie Giellis, is ready to be mayor.
Yes.
Could you talk in practical terms of what you think the risk is if she were to be elected?
Well, I'll give you one example. First of all, this is a very complex multi-agency, as you know, over 24 agencies, 14,600 employees, $2.5 billion budget. And the economy is beginning to soften. As I mentioned during the debate, we are seeing our third consecutive quarter of softening receipts from our sales and use taxes. The mayor must know this budget. You don't have a chance to learn it. You got to be able to hit it. And we have been working and building this budget for the last 8 years. We know where we can go to get the city, at least through a brief slowdown, without disrupting the core city services.
If you are a Denver voter still holding on to a ballot, I would really encourage you to watch the extended, very candid conversations that we've posted to the Next YouTube channel. Also, perhaps you have seen a campaign ad that is running that has a clip from this show, a clip of something that I have said. A reminder, we went through this in the governor's race as well. We're not able to stop campaigns from clipping our broadcasts and using them in their ads. Turnout jumped from 14% to 23% in the mayor's race over the weekend. Turnout for the first round of voting was about 46%, and we know Denver always votes last minute. A couple of Next viewers asked if they could vote for none of the above in the mayor's race. You can't do that here. You can in Nevada. It is the only state that offers a none of the above option on ballots. It's actually been the top vote getter a few times, but it's the top actual candidate that then wins the race. State legislators have found a side door into the Capitol, a revolving door of appointed, not elected officials, more than a dozen of them in the 100-seat legislature. The latest is Mary Young, handpicked after Democratic Rep. Rochelle Galindo of Greeley resigned. Young was selected by just 9 people. Would have been 10, but her husband, State Treasurer Dave Young, recused himself.
I think we as the district benefited by the years that she had spent out campaigning, not just for Dave, but for a lot of other candidates and other issues. She is a person in her own right, supportive of Dave, supported by Dave, helped him do town halls and all of that. Did the fact she was Dave Young's wife get her that position? Absolutely not.
So leave that relationship aside. If you think that 9 people picking a state legislator is wild, remember we told you about a 6-person selection committee. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger wonders whether this is the best we can do.
There are 100 lawmakers serving at the Capitol, and based on research done by Next and the brains inside the Capitol, 17 lawmakers got inside by getting appointed, not by getting elected. Mary Young is the newest, appointed by a committee of 9, with 6 voting for her. Is this the best method we got?
It's a really good question. It's a good discussion to have.
Morgan Carroll is the chairwoman of the state Democratic Party. Carroll laid out the options we could consider. let the governor pick, use the current vacancy committee process, or have a snap election.
The downside of a snap election is that it limits the kind of candidate who can run. Generally, candidates would need to have more money or the ability to raise more, which potentially increases the role of special interests.
Consider money a con to a snap election. The pro being it opens up the process to the greatest number of people. Letting the governor pick means it doesn't really cost us anything, but it's just one person, which brings us back to the current process of a vacancy committee.
I'm definitely open to making a change in whatever the replacement process is, but not change for its own sake.
Senator Jeff Bridges moved from the House to the Senate this year based on the vote of 119 people.
The fact that 119 people decided who the state senator would be for 150,000, to me, just doesn't seem like a very democratic process.
Today in a text, Bridges told me we need a more democratic process that better reflects our Colorado values of fairness and inclusiveness.
I think it's a very fair question that even if we keep a vacancy committee, should there be a minimum size?
Although the size could be decided, Kyle, by the parties, I believe. Yeah. Both parties are equal opportunity, I shouldn't say offenders of this, but 11 Democrats have gotten in through the side door, 6 Republicans have gotten in through the side door. Some of them have been elected since then. Yeah. Reached out to the state Republican Party. They thought it was an interesting question, but I never got a full statement about this.
I like the way that you pointed out that there are other options, but they come with pros and cons. Mm-hmm. So people can have that discussion. What do you want to do? All right. Thank you, Marshall. Best thing to happen to John Hickenlooper's presidential campaign so far was when he got booed this weekend. I'm serious, because Hickenlooper's trying to rally moderate Democrats. So getting heckled by a bunch of socialists in San Francisco, genius.
But let me be clear. If we want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer.
I'm telling you, if Hickenlooper gets any traction in the Democratic Party, it will have started with those boos.
It seems like it's over before it starts.
In 3 performances, I got 1 decent picture.
But he learned the art so well, he's headed into the Bull Riders Hall of Fame.
Very, very surprised. And I'm still riding an emotional high from my induction.
Anyone who's willing to turn their home into a museum has the kind of passion we want to hear about on Next. And I have to update you on a friend of ours who continues to inspire and amaze. Next.
Rodeo, the longest 8 seconds. For the photographer in the arena, it happens in a flash. Our Allie Levine caught up with a legend who has just seconds to capture that moment.
What have I gotten here that's noteworthy?
It's a funny question, coming from a man wearing a belt buckle worthy of a Hall of Famer.
It says Bull Riding Hall of Fame 2019, Jerry Gustafson.
Meet the man, the myth, the legend.
I don't think of myself that way.
But the Bull Riding Hall of Fame sure does.
I was inducted in the Legends category.
That was on May 18th in Fort Worth, Texas.
And I'm still riding an emotional high from my induction.
Jerry isn't a bull rider himself.
No.
But he sure knows how to photograph them.
I first picked up a camera in 1962 as a sophomore in high school.
He shot school pictures and worked for the local newspaper.
I just found it interesting.
At least for a while he did.
Once you master the technique, they become very boring because it's very routine.
To combat the monotony, Jerry took his camera to the rodeo.
And in 3 performances, I got 1 decent picture.
Before long, he had it figured out.
But this is a perfect action shot.
In the 1970s and 80s, with his wife,
I couldn't have done it without her,
an infant son in tow, Jerry traveled the country.
It's a unique lifestyle, that's for sure.
Photographing the world's best bull riders.
That would be a long, long list.
His favorite pictures,
like that one,
filled 2 coffee books.
When I got that picture, I knew I had something special. This is another picture that's been used many, many, many times over the year.
Jerry says he's retiring his camera from the rodeo.
Correct.
But he's said that before.
Right.
For Next, I'm Allie Levine.
Jerry said instead of shooting any more bull rides, he'll stick to tamer stuff, like taking pictures of next year's Hall of Fame inductees. So how do you top the achievement of riding your bike from coast to coast? A Coloradan invited us into his home to see the answer. Next. Channel 20 runs a lot of Next promos during the commercial breaks. America's infatuation with electric scooters are crowding out bikes, the trusty, reliable, old-fashioned bike. On this World Bicycle Day, we met a guy in Golden who is not about to trade Old Faithful for some scooter.
This is a museum.
Welcome.
It is a history center for bikes.
To a home full.
It's a gallery for bike photos.
Of sustainability.
And it's a library for bicycle history pre-1900.
Starting in 1991,
we'll go downstairs.
Steve Stevens spent 12 years collecting old bikes.
1877.
Really old bikes. So if you want to know the story of bikes and why they're a game changer,
the stories are amazing.
Steve is your guy.
Bikes have been around, evolving, since 1793. In 1816, they came up with steering.
By his own admission, some of his knowledge is a bit suspect.
Santa used to do his deliveries on a penny farthing bike, and this was his bike. You see it says St. Nicholas.
He also owns one of the early government vehicles.
Oh, this is Uncle Sam's bike.
Stevens is not just a collector. He has been known to sit in the saddle for a very long time.
This is just my little record when I broke the old record by 4 days going across the country, San Francisco to Boston.
He still holds the record.
Yeah, I was 56 when I got there.
And bikes have always been for everyone.
Susan B. Anthony said that the bike was the one thing that most contributed to the liberation of women because they could get out and be free.
So on this World Bicycle Day and those that follow, take a ride and take some advice from Steve Stevens.
We should be interested in bikes because they're the most sustainable transportation that we can have.
For Next, I'm Tom Cole.
Isn't that pretty neat? Hey, saw an old friend of ours this weekend, and I'm amazed at how she's doing. That and your feedback next. Our colleague Kristen Aguirre has shared stories here. You have not seen her on air recently as she recovers from a stroke that she had in April. Kristen's toughness was legendary long before her stroke, but she is redefining that term now. She walked, yes, she walked the Survivor Mile at the American Heart Association Heart Walk at Mile High on Saturday, and a whole crowd of us from 9 News were honored to follow her on that short piece of her longer journey. Kristen has been sharing her story publicly on social media, but I wanted to make sure that we told you about it here as well. I look forward to the day that she's here telling you about it in person. Charlotte Bear loved the coin that we used for the coin flip earlier in the show, wanted to know where she could get one. It's a Thompson Valley Paramedic Challenge coin. Do any of you have really cool challenge coins? They always have such exceptional stories about how you got them and why you've held on to it. Share the story with me. Use the hashtag HeyNext or email us at next@9news.com. Thanks for finding us on Channel 20. We will be here, Channel 20, tomorrow night. See you next time.